Hello. There's a lot of interest in the stretch effect that people have been putting in 1v1 maps and stuff like that. So today we're going to go over how you can get that set up in your map. You'll see here we get our stretch effect and we can remove it. And so today I'm going to show you how to implement that. So the first thing we need to do is create a material parameter collection. Right click, go to material and material parameter collection. Let's call this height, width, create two scalar parameters. Let's set the first one to height and make it 1080. Set the next one to width and make it 1920. Whoops. And that should be all we need to do with the material parameter collection. So we can close that. Next, we need to create a material. So we right click, go to material and choose material. Let's call this stretch material and open that up. We need to change the material domain to post process. And then we want to drag in our parameters that we created. We're going to need two of those. So copy and set Control V to paste. Drag those over so we have plenty of room. We're going to move this stuff around a few times. Let's set the top one to be width and the bottom one to be height. Then we need to add an append vector. So I right click to bring this menu up, choose append vector, connect up the two material parameters to A and B. We need to add an if, connect the material parameter, the width to A, take the append and add that to these two items here. A is less than B and A is greater than B. And then add a excuse me, add a screen resolution node, right click, resolution, screen resolution node, and we'll connect that up to A equals B, just like that. Let's make these a little tighter together so we have more room. Now we need to add a divide node, connect this up to B, add a view size, connect that up to A, and we need component masks. We need two of these, so I'm going to I'm going to hit Control C and Control V to copy those. We need to set the top one to just R and the bottom one to just G. Bring our divide out, connect those up. Let's tighten this up again. We need another divide node, and we need an append node, append vector. Connect our divide up to our append A, and we need to add a constant and connect that up to B. I'm gonna zoom out and move this all over a little bit so I've got more room. Now we need a subtract node and a divide node. Connect our subtract A to append and our divide B to append. We're going to leave that divide alone for a little while. We'll get back to that. Let's add a multiply and connect up B. And this one here, this B is not going to get connected to anything on the subtract. That needs to just stay as the 1.0 like you see here. Let's create an add node. Connect this up to B. And let's add a screen position node. Connect that up to A. And now we need a multiply node. We're going to connect our add up to the A on the multiply, and we're going to take our divide from before and connect that up to B. Create a scene texture node. We need to change that to post process input 0. Take your multiply into the UV, take your color into the emissive, and our material should be done. I'm just going to scroll through it real quick so you can see it again. Actually, I think I missed a spot. Yep, this multiply needs to be 0.5. And this constant is supposed to be 1.0. There we go. That's what it's supposed to look like. Save that and close our material. Now we just take that material, right click, and create material instance. Next, we're going to need a post-process volume, which you can add by going up to the plus up here, volumes, post-process volume. You can put that pretty much wherever you want. I've already got one, so I'm not adding another one. But I will show you how that's configured. The only thing that we really need to change in here, there's three things. We need to change the material to the material that we just created. We want to set the weight here to be 0 and Set it up to be infinite, infinite extent. Make sure that's checked. Those are the only three things we should have to change with the post process at this stage. Now we're going to need a couple of level sequences. So one is going to be to make it stretch, and the other one's going to be to remove it. So let's right click, cinematics, level sequence. Let's call this stretch sequence. And we're going to need to add our material parameters to it. So I'm going to drag this out, drag our material in there, material parameter in there. And we need to add both the height and the width. And we are going to need to add our post-process volume as well. So I'm going to drag that in there. And on the post-process volume, we need to add, I forget what it's called. The material itself. Let's change the height to 768. Change the width to 1024. Actually, we're gonna have to do that here. Oh, nope, good, it took my change. Double check this one, 1024. And then we want the weight to be 1. Let's add that keyframe. And you'll notice that it's already stretching stuff in the back for us. I'm gonna save that. Close it. And let's actually just copy and paste that. So um, I'm gonna duplicate it. Call this no stretch. Double click on that. Let's set that to the height to 1080. Set the width to 1920 and set the weight to 0. Perfect. Let's save that and close that. At this point, our level sequences should be all set. Next, you're going to need a bunch of cinematic sequence devices. I've already got a bunch in my world here that you can see. Um, I recommend at least one per player per effect, keeping in mind that removing the effect is an effect. There's an issue where you can't play the same cinematic device for more than one player at the same time. So you need to avoid the possibility that that's going to happen. And I have written the verse code that I will show you to avoid that scenario. But you will want to make sure that if you're going to have 3 players and you're going to have one stretch effect, that you're going to have at least 6 cinematic sequence devices, 3 to apply it and 3 to remove it. So that's what I've done here, and I will show you what those settings look like. Let's change all 3 of these to the level sequence we just created, which I think we called stretch. So we want the level sequence to be applied. We want visibility to be instigator only. And that should be it. So let's go and adjust our other ones as well to no stretch and save. And then comes the verse code to tie it all together. I'm not going to write that all out now. I've already written it out, but I will show you what we have. So starting at the top, we've got our normal usings. I'm using stacks, which allow us to add and remove stuff fairly dynamically. The code for that, I didn't write any of this. This was all taken from Epic's website at this link. So I don't deserve any credit for that piece. We've got our creative device. We're going to have a remove effect button and a 1024 button. Those are editables to make them easy to apply to the creative device. We're going to have an array of cinematic sequence devices to remove the effect and an array of cinematic sequence devices to apply the effect. These are going to be our stacks, which will allow us to dynamically assign these to players. And the stacks will go hand in hand with the maps to keep track of what's been given to what player. So then we are initializing our stack, both the one to remove effects and the one to add the effects. We are initializing our buttons so that they can call functions when they get hit. And we are going to clean up when players leave. Here's our remove effect. Basically, we're just going to add the player to the map. If they don't already exist, we will set them up. Um, that every time they go to use one, it's going to do that because the way I've written this is that when they use the stop button, it's going to remove them from the map to make sure that we're keeping this as clean as possible as we go through this. So not going to explain the rest of the code, but I will just scroll down so you can take a look at it. This tutorial isn't really on how to write verse, but how to apply the stretch effect. And I'm just using verse to tie it all together. So you're welcome to copy this. And if you have any questions on what I've written here, feel free to ask in the comments. And that's the verse. Now we just need to actually adjust the verse device that we've created. If this isn't already in your world, you'll need to drag it out. It'll probably be in the root folder here. This is mine. So we add the button that we want to remove the effect, we add the button we want to apply the effect, and then add however many cinematic sequence devices you need to each of these arrays to pull from. And that should be it for configuring this device. Now, you can use triggers or any number of other things to apply these and remove these as well. How you do that with verse is not going to be covered here, but there's a lot of tutorials on how to use triggers and things like that to do different things. So you can put a little legwork in and find that stuff. All right, with everything configured, let's push our changes and see if it's all working. That's going to take a moment because it always does. I will come back when that's fully loaded. All right, so that push is done. Let's start the game and see if it worked. All right, we got our stretch, but then our stretch goes back all by itself, which we don't want. And I'll show you how to fix that. This is happening because the level sequence is not um, keeping its state. So we're actually going to edit both level sequences. Right click on height width, go to edit section. When finished, keep state. Right click on weight, edit section. When finished, keep state. While we're in here, let's actually reduce this time down to half a second and close that. Let's open the other one and do the same thing. Right click height weight, height width, keep state, right click weight, edit section, keep state, and bring that down to half a second. Save it. And let's push our changes again. I will be back when that's done. All right, that push is done. Let's see if it works for real this time. We got our stretch, and it seems to be hanging out this time. Last time it took about 5 seconds for it to revert, but that's because we set the cinematic sequence, or it defaults to 5 seconds. We just reduced it down to half a second, and it's sticking around. So if we go to our remove effect, just like we want, and we should be able to go back and forth with no issues. So there you have it. That's your stretch effect. If you got something out of this video, be sure to like and subscribe. I will have more tutorials coming in the future. Thanks.